Welcome to another pop-up broadcast of Creative on Purpose Live. This is a feature of the Transcendent Solopreneurship Substack. My name is Scott Perry. I am the publisher of that Substack, which is dedicated to helping solopreneurs optimize their business to better fund and fit the life that they actually want to be living. And today's broadcast is an Ask Me Anything episode. And so as I was sharing with the folks just before I officially went live, anything that you want to ask me is fair game. I'm not going to limit myself to just talking about solopreneurship or business optimization, offers, marketing, or client attraction strategies. If you have questions about anything that you've seen me write about, which can be along the lines of personal development, ancient philosophical and spiritual disciplines that help inform and inspire happier, healthier living, or questions about starting your own grandparent daycare. Those are all fair game, and anything else you want to ask. So today, we have queued up 3 questions. One of them is about the idea of unleashing your idea virus, which comes from a training that we did a couple weeks ago, or maybe just a week ago. We have a question about Stoic philosophy, and we have a question about how to prepare yourself for going live, doing something like this. And so we're going to jump right into it. MJ, one of our inner circle members, wrote this question. I thought your idea virus architect GPT was one of the most useful tools I have ever used to crystallize an idea. Thank you. What do you see as the progression or the next steps for furthering these ideas, creating more GPTs of your own that suit your business model and theory of change, or building off one like yours that you continue to refine and iterate? Do you see it as something to sell? So these are all great questions. For context, for anyone that is not familiar with the idea of the idea virus or what we unpacked in the training that we did on this topic, just a little background. I had a 7-year association with Seth Godin as a member of the Alt MBA, a coach, someone that was trained to be a coach in the Alt MBA, but later became a coach for 5 years in the Akimbo workshops that Seth started, including the marketing seminar, the freelancers workshop, the bootstrappers workshop, the creatives workshop, the story skills workshop, and I can't even remember what other workshops I coached in, but I coached in almost all of them at some point, and I was the head coach of the creatives workshop and the freelancers workshop for multiple sessions. And I have recently been revisiting some of Seth's work, and one of the things that I went all the way back to was permission marketing and his book, Unleash the Idea Virus. Permission marketing is this idea that is definitely baked into my Be a Blessing marketing framework. Permission marketing is the idea of creating an audience that expects to hear from you with anticipated, relevant, and personalized messages. And my Substack is built on the permission marketing idea, which again, I've unpacked further into my Be a Blessing marketing web. And after he wrote Unleash the Idea Virus, which I believe is available for free, if you go to Seth's blog and just put in permission marketing, you can probably find a free download. After he wrote that book, he got a lot of questions around, okay, I get the idea of permission marketing, but how do I get people, how do I collect this audience of people that are eager to hear anticipated, relevant, personal messages from me? And so he wrote this idea of this book about Unleash the Idea Virus. And what occurred to me is how well the process, his ideas in Unleash the Idea Virus mapped over the idea of the forever offer, which is one of the core frameworks of the purpose-driven prosperity model that my clients are learning and that I talk about with subscribers to Transcendent Solopreneurship. And the idea of the forever offer essentially is, instead of creating this very narrow, niched offer, a power offer or a no-brainer offer where you're trying to insert yourself into an existing market and differentiate based on demographics or psychographics or features and benefits of your offer, whether it's a product, a service, an idea, a cause, a mission. Those typical digital marketing approaches, I find to be very unhelpful because they actually require you to become kind of a full-time digital marketer. Like, if you're going to create a power offer, a no-brainer offer, you have to have this ideal customer avatar. You have to define your niche and differentiate on features, benefits, demographics, psychographics, and then you're putting yourself in a already saturated, heavily competitive market that's already noisy and cluttered with offers of dubious value and virtue. And instead, I offer as the antidote to becoming a full-time digital marketer, just for the privilege of doing the work that you want to do and making the difference you want to make. Why not start with positioning? Where can you stand up in a marketplace in fully integrated and in alignment with your core values, your guiding principles, your boundaries, your guardrails, and share your skills and talents with people who share your values and need your talents to enhance their lives. And instead of trying to market to people, simply do your thing out loud and in public and let them watch, and trust that your people will find you. And that if you continue to deliver value, be helpful, turn your innovative product or service into information that they can understand, apply, find useful, get traction with. If you do that, more and more people will actually continue to step into your ecosystem. They will desire to be in greater proximity and want more access to you. And based on that positioning, offers will just kind of naturally emerge. And so the idea virus is this idea or this process where you package an idea into some sort of manifesto, is what Seth calls it. And I think a text-based manifesto is easiest. How can you state or articulate what you do, who it's for, and the promise that you're making in a way that that takes only one breath, that is highly contagious, that is highly repeatable. You can package it as a text-based tagline or manifesto. You can package it as a meme. You can package it in the product itself. There's all these things that go into the idea of creating an idea virus based on your forever offer. And so in this workshop, I provided some processes for helping people clarify and more clearly articulate their forever offer, and then turn that forever offer into an idea virus that was highly contagious, easy to understand, highly spreadable, and would work its way through a hive, to use Seth's word, which you could also consider a marketplace, so that the idea basically becomes self-spreading. Your offer becomes a self-spreading idea. And as part of the training for the circle and inner circle participants in this workshop, I created a GPT called the Idea Virus Architect, which gives you a worksheet. You create your forever offer. It helps you walk through some of the processes for creating your idea virus, and then you plug it into this GPT, and it actually helps you create iterations, variations, and improvements on a campaign to take your forever offer, create the idea virus, find your hive, and make it spread with increasing ease and velocity. So MJ's question is, having found the workshop and the GPT really helpful, and just in transparency, the GPT is available, continues to be available for Inner Circle members, which is the founder level of paid subscriber to the Transcendent Solopreneurship publication. But if the circle members and inner circle members have access to the workshop, and you can get all the information you need from the workshop. So if you're a paid subscriber to the publication, you have access to everything you need to create a forever offer, turn it into an idea buyers, and create this self-spreading offer. When it comes to continuing to work with my GPT or creating your own GPTs, I would say that coming from a place, the answer to any question like this is it depends. I wrote last Friday an extended essay on how I'm using AI and what I perceive to be the virtues and the perils of using AI. And AI can easily become a trap. Like, I would definitely say to MJ and anybody else, if you are looking for a GPT to solve a problem for you in your business, whether it's the Cornerman coaching GPT that all paid subscribers have access to, which is basically like having me be a coach in your pocket 24/7, or a specific GPT like the Idea Virus Architect, you're searching for a technical solution to what is probably an adaptive problem. Most of us who are purpose-driven solopreneurs that want to find fulfillment and meaning by making a bigger impact within 4 people that we care about, then we have something within us already that we can bring forth to as a forever offer in a way that will attract the right people who will actively engage in helping us define what the best offering that we can make available to them to help them get closer to what they want, either solving the problem that they need to solve for themselves or achieving the aspiration that they want to achieve for themselves. And the biggest bottlenecks are always going to be ourselves. It's not that we're missing a tool like AI or Chat GPT or GPT that someone else or yourself concocted or created. It's not going to be a tactic. It's not going to be a strategy. It's going to be, can we become the kind of person that can accomplish the kind of things that we want to accomplish as a purpose-driven difference maker? And so a GPT can be a tool that is used tactically to help move a strategy forward that helps us become the kind of person that can do the kind of things that we want to do, accomplish what we want to accomplish, and accomplish within 4 other people the things that they want to accomplish. But I would avoid leaping right to GPTs. Like, the first and foremost is to define an offer. And again, I think an offer based on positioning, a forever offer that is a reflection of who you are, what you're great at, and where you belong. Who you are is your values and guiding principles. What you're great at is based on your inherent talents, but also the skills you learned in school and on the job that help reflect those inherent talents. And where you belong is with people who share your values and need your talents to enhance their lives. Start by defining what that is. And there's all sorts of trainings inside the publication and inside the Inner Circle Vault for Inner Circle members, and the Vault that's available to all Circle subscribers, annual, monthly subscribers, that will help you find that forever offer. But define what that is, what that positioning is, define what that fundamental promise that you can make and keep is, and then put yourself in situations where you're sharing that out loud and in public, where people that resonate with you and your message and your and the difference that you can make, and your offers, your specific offers, your paid offers, will emerge from just showing up and helping people identify what they're actually trying to accomplish, what's actually in their way, and helping them not just get clarity about that, but providing a little bit of a roadmap. We talk a lot about that in the Forever Offer and the Be a Blessing marketing strategy. So that is a very long answer to MJ's question. The short answer, MJ, is if the GPT was helpful for getting you started, then I would take the plan, the strategy that the GPT, the idea buyer's architect, helped you arrive at, and start to implement it, because the best feedback will come from engaging the field. It will come from the interactions, exchanges, questions, and criticism that come from doing your work out loud and in public with people who resonate with who you are and the difference that you can help them make, the change that you can help them make. And once you have some clarity about how, who is resonating and what the common topics, themes, problems that you're helping them with, you could use my GPT to continue to iterate and improve the offer and the offerings, the way that you deliver that offer, and you can come up with them on your own. Coming up next is Catherine's question, and Catherine is one of our members who has decided that she really doesn't want to have a lot to do with AI. I think that is a perfectly legitimate, understandable, and laudable position. If you don't like, anything that you do in business or in life should align with and be a reflection of your personality and preferences. You were born sufficient and whole, possessing everything you need to succeed in this life. And you should never do anything that doesn't feel aligned and resonant with who you are, what you believe, where you belong, and what you're good at. It's one of the primary things I address with clients. They come to me and say, well, my funnel's broken and my video messages aren't resonating on Facebook. My video ads. It's like, well, do you like doing video ads? Do you like Facebook? No, I don't, but I have to do these things because some digital marketer said that video marketing on Facebook ads is the only way to build an audience. That's simply not true. And if you don't like doing video, and if you don't like being on social media, you don't have to do video, and you don't have to be on Facebook. And I say this is someone that has definitely done plenty of video on Facebook and now is no longer on Facebook or any other social media platform. My business is thriving without any advertising and without any social media platforms. I'm simply sharing what I believe and what I do here on Substack, and repurposing it occasionally on the podcast, also released here on Substack and on YouTube. So, the short answer is engage the field and let the field tell you what the next iteration or improvement should be. If you are clear about the change you're making, if you're clear about your business objectives, and you are collecting data based on the discussions that you're having, the engagement that you're having with your prospects and your leads, and analyzing that data and iterating and improving, and defining what's next based on the data, then it will inform the tactics and the tools that you need to use to create greater ease and efficiency and velocity with that. And it may or may not be ChatGPT, GPTs, my processes, or anything else. Let the field guide, let the feedback and the field guide what your next steps are. So MJ, I hope that's helpful. Moving on to question number 2, Catherine Palmer. Is there a Stoic maxim that does not fit your personal philosophy, i.e. one that you don't agree with? If so, which one? So this is a great question. A lot of you know that my very first adventure in writing and publishing. My first book is called The Stoic Creative. And I've been a student of Stoic philosophy since I was in the 7th grade, which was a very long time ago. My favorite Stoic philosopher is Marcus Aurelius, the last of the 5 good Roman emperors, and his journal Meditations has been an inspiration to me since I was in the 7th grade, which was just a few years after Marcus himself had passed. So I've been studying Stoicism for a long time, certainly no expert. And there's certainly plenty, I'm not someone that buys any kind of philosophy or spiritual discipline without some deep introspection and occasional criticism of the thing that I'm studying. What came up for me, Catherine, is that there's not so much a maxim or a quote from Stoicism that I disagree with. I use a lot of Stoic quotes as reminders to myself of principles that come from Stoicism that are super helpful for me. But one of the ideas that Stoics argue about, going back to ancient Stoicism and all the way through into modern Stoicism and weaving in some other more modern philosophies, is the idea of determinism. Like the Stoics believed that the universe was deterministic. They believed in what Alan Watts calls the automatic model of the universe, that it follows kind of a causal chain, that destiny is something that is determined before we even got here, that everything is unfolding the way it was meant to unfold. I think there's another word that Alan Watts uses, and Alan Watts is not coming from a Stoic philosophy perspective, but from a Taoist Hindu perspective, and I think he calls it catenaceous or catenation, which is again this idea of kind of a causal chain. Now there are some Stoic philosophers and some students of Stoicism that argue about what the Stoics actually meant by determinism, because the Stoics also talked about this idea of free will, and so there's a school or a group of Stoics that are what are called compatibilists or compatibilists, I think is the term they use, which is they kind of accept that the universe can be deterministic and free will can exist at the same time. When Alan Watts talks about these ideas, he talks about the ceramic model, the automatic model, and the dramatic model. And he gets the middle way is this dramatic, like ceramic model is the universe was constructed by some sort of all-knowing being, and everything is set by this outside force. And then the automatic model is that based on the Big Bang and the idea that everything is happening automatically, deterministically through causality. And then the dramatic model, he talks about how we as human beings kind of fit within this model as a reflection of the universe, but also as agents within the universe. And I know I'm getting into some, kind of deep philosophical woo-woo stuff here that I may or may not fully understand. But I'll tell you what, one of the things I wrote about a lot early on was was written about my coming to terms with, if the world is deterministic, then what is our role? I think it's Epictetus that says that although the world is that the universe is deterministic, we are like dogs tied to a wagon. The wagon is going to go where it's going to go, and we can either walk alongside or we can be dragged. And I always really like that metaphor. And so I think about all of this, and I've come to my own definitions of 3 things: fate, destiny, and free will. I don't define fate as what's going to happen. I define fate as what's happening. Fate has, like, we are living in a fated moment. Everything that is happening right now, fate has brought to us. It's happening. And we can look back at all the causation. We can try to, identify the primary and the secondary and the tertiary causes and all that sort of thing. And we can try to, through, armchair quarterbacking, find the causal thread that brought us to this moment. I don't think that's super useful. I think it's okay to just say, accept that the fated moment that I'm in is the fated moment I'm in. Nietzsche calls it amor fati, love fate, is the way I think about it. And so, yes, I'm living in this fated moment. And destiny is what's going to happen next. Now, I don't think it's useful to decide whether that's deterministic, meaning it's going to happen the way it is meant to happen, or if it will happen based on the execution of my free will, because we don't know. So why argue about it? If it's something that we like, it doesn't make sense for me to take a firm stand that things are causal or not causal when we just can't know. If I frame it simply as destiny is what's going to happen, and I am in this fated moment, then what free will means to me is that in this moment, and this is very tied to Stoic philosophy, the idea of the Stoic fork, that some things are within our control and some things are not. In this fated moment lies my agency to frame or reframe what's happening, and decide and do what I think I should do next. And so in this fated moment, we can spin narratives around being victims of destiny and fate and just become, I think in Stoicism, they call it the lazy argument, that you're just going to let everything happen the way it's going to happen and hope that it happens for the best for you. But, how we frame, reframe, decide what to do, and do what we feel needs to be done next speaks to the Stoic, what the Stoics say is the only thing required for living a good life, which is virtue. The content of your character is based on your ability to frame, reframe, decide, and do what needs to be done next, with the idea of justice, that you're doing what is in the best interest for you without impeding anybody else's ability to do the same. And so, again, to Catherine's question, it's not so much a maxim that I disagree with. The idea that the universe is simply deterministic and that we are dogs tied to a wagon that are being dragged to wherever it's going to go is not very exciting or interesting to me. The idea that that rope has enough slack in it that we can go with the flow, don't push the river. Pushing the river will only get you exhausted. But if you go with the flow and execute your free will, if you execute your agency over how you see things and what you decide to do next, you have the ability to influence what happens next. And you also have the ability to derive meaning from what's happening. And I use the example always of Viktor Frankl, who was a student of Stoicism as well. He was subjected to multiple years and multiple death camps during World War II, and emerged completely not just with his humanity intact, but maybe even emerged as a more committed human being, committed to being a force for good, for helping others alleviate suffering in their lives. And, he could have just as easily given up, as he saw so often in the concentration camps, people just giving up, or people becoming inhuman and be, because of the inhumanity of the situation and lying and cheating and stealing and killing for their own survival, he was able to avoid all that he simply made meaning from the moment he was in, executed his free will, his ability to frame how he saw things and what he decided to do next to become a better human being, a more just human being, a more fulfilled human being, and lead a more meaningful life. So that's my little riff rant on this Stoic idea of determinism. Bree asks, "You always sound so great on your lives and videos. I know you are a musician and you are used to being in front of crowds. I have also been a musician, but I have trouble, especially with lives. Any tips for us introverts with pushing ourselves to do lives, especially if sometimes random people join and try to sidestep the conversation and make it about them? I'm fine with making it about the person, but not sidetracking the convo to a random topic. How do you manage fear of trolls?" I think I know what you might say. Well, what I'm going to start to say is I think I've proven, Bree, that I'm not so great on lives all the time. I'm demonstrating that in real time right now. One of the reasons why I prefer writing over live video is with writing, I can take my ramblings and distill them down into concise talking points or insights or inspiration or calls to take intentional action. And it's harder for me to do that in real time. Seth Godin, I think, is the master of all of that. I think he speaks in perfect prose. I appreciate that you think I'm good at this. But any skill I have in going live, any impact I'm able to have in going live here on Substack or in in-person situations, both virtual and in real life, has come mostly from hard-won experience. I've been doing this for a long time, and I attribute my long occupation within Seth Godin's Akimbo workshops as a coach and head coach is to giving me a lot of reps when it comes to being responsive in real time, in real life situations, and being able to think quickly on my feet. But one of the things, so number one, when it comes to answering your question around how do you get more comfortable at being doing lives, it's number one and I said this earlier, know thyself. If your personality and preferences don't really involve doing live broadcasts, I would say find other ways to deliver your message or make your connections. Live is just one tool of many tools here on Substack that you can use to connect with an audience and earn the privilege of enrollment in the journey you can take them on by subscribing to your Substack as a free and or paid subscriber. So again, I talked about my very first book, The Stoic Creative. I actually talked about this quite a bit because it was something I was really wrestling with at that time. I always found it really easy as a musician to just stand up and do my thing. As a musician, the stage felt like home to me. And it was just work that really aligned with who I was and what I wanted to do at that time. And when I was transitioning, again, thanks to my 7-year association with Seth Godin, I was given this runway to transition into what I felt like life was calling me to do next. The very first iteration of moving from being a professional musician and guitar studio owner into some sort of thought leader or writer or coach or whatever it was I was becoming I thought, oh, I should be a public speaker because I'm used to being on stage. I'm used to that. And I was the worst public speaker ever. And I don't can't tell you why that was. It just, there was something about not having a guitar in front of me or strapped to me that made public speaking really, really hard for me. And I was terrible at it. And so I decided that that was not for me. And instead, moved into writing, broadcasting, podcasting, doing a lot of interviewing of other people that were much smarter than I was, who were doing things that I found interesting and exciting, and in some cases wanted to emulate. And along the way, I really, because I did continue to do a fair amount of live broadcasting with the podcast and so forth, at that time going live on social media. What I learned is to distinguish what criticism is compared to meaningful feedback. Because when you're doing things online, it's just, it's a haven for trolls. It's a haven for haters. It's a haven for people that try to elevate themselves by putting other people down. And it's a haven for, frankly, people that look like me to express their disagreement with you and their certainty and conviction in their own beliefs. I love that Kevin Ashton quote. Trust is belief in yourself. Certainty is belief in your beliefs. So what I arrived at is that for me in the beginning, I decided that the only meaningful feedback was going to come from people who I already knew, liked, and trusted, and who I already knew, liked, and trusted me, and were invested in seeing me nurture and expand and grow my gifts. And so, so feedback was often solicited, meaning I asked people to look at my writing or to look at my broadcast or to be on my broadcast and, followed up. And that criticism was unsolicited, and therefore should just simply be ignored. And over time, I don't think it's even developing a thick skin. I think it's just developing a clear idea of who I really was and who I really was wanting to become. And that self-awareness led to self-efficacy, which led to self-trust and self-actualization, and then ultimately self-transcendence, where I really don't give a damn what anybody else thinks about me, or my ideas or the change I'm trying to make. And when I say that, I don't mean that in a hubristic sense, or that I have great certainty in who I am or what I believe. I actually am. I attempt just the opposite. I want to remain curious. I want to remain considerate. I want to keep open loops. And I have actually developed the ability to take unsolicited criticism from people that are clearly trolls, whose agenda is to put me down so that they can feel better about themselves, but still find a kernel of, or a seed of information that's worth further consideration, because it will help me achieve my aspiration, which is to become the best version of myself that I can become, so that I can help other people become the best version of themselves that they want to become. But it's been a very long process. I would say it's been probably not quite a decade since I wrote all that down in the Stoic Creative. But it began with just, ignore the haters, ignore the critics, understanding that anything I do online nobody is going to see. I mean, yeah, I've got 8 people on this broadcast right now, and it will disappear. And most everyone, 99.999999999% of Substack isn't going to see this, and the 8 or 9 people that do will also, um, forget this. And so there's that whole idea of, we get really wrapped up in our personal significance, the story that we want to tell ourselves about ourselves, and that we'd like other people to believe. And then I'm always weighing that against my understanding of my cosmic insignificance. Like, the world was just fine before I got here. It's just fine while I'm here, and it'll be just fine while I'm gone. And nothing that I do here, for the most part, will be remembered much, if and for long. And I'm always kind of holding those, those two ends of the spectrum, in balance at any given time. So, the last thing I'll say, Bree, is, I said it, if your personality preferences don't align with going live, don't go live. It can also be that, sometimes these things that don't feel like they align with our personality preferences are still things that we really, really want. And so if you decide that going live and being able to express yourself and articulate your beliefs and your processes and your offers and your philosophy, your principles is something you want to do, then just strategically find the lowest risk ways that you can do that. I had a woman who was a client very early on that asked basically the question that you're asking. She got really anxious about doing anything in person live or online live. And at that time, Instagram allowed you to go live. And then after the broadcast was over, it would say, do you want to save this or do you want to delete it? And so if you didn't like what you just did, felt it wasn't worth letting nobody see it after it was recorded, you could hit delete and it just kind of disappeared. So, find those kind of low friction, low stakes ways that you can build your going live muscle. And I think, Bree, you already do this very well with the things that you're doing with your Discord community. Your Friday, your Friday sessions, which is probably what you're doing right now. Build the muscle slowly. You don't start with lifting 360 bench pressing 360 pounds. You start by bench pressing the bar. And once you can get the bar up and down in a clean way for 10 reps, then maybe you're going to put some 5-pound weights on it. And, you build up into what you're wanting to do. So if it's a muscle you want to improve or strengthen, then find the lowest impact ways that you can do that make you allow you to feel safe enough, but also stressed enough to build that muscle. All right, so those are the 3 questions that we had. I saw some people coming in. Lorenzo asks, how did you balance offering valuable insights during early interactions like icebreaker or clients in one-on-ones without giving away services that clients should pay for? I've actually been thinking about this because of our work together, Lorenzo, but there's several current clients that are building their forever offers and also developing their client attraction strategy, which the way I teach it is, instead of becoming a content slave to social media and constructing leaky funnels that require a ton of time, attention, money, and effort to give you a 2% return on investment, why not do what's always worked, which is start a conversation, deliver value in that conversation, and decide at what point that value requires someone to invest in continuing the process with you. So the process that I use begins with 2 free conversations: the icebreaker conversation, which helps someone identify what they're trying to accomplish and what their biggest constraint, obstacle, or bottleneck is. And then a diagnostic conversation where you are asking, I use 5 questions that help determine if they're a good fit for me and my approach or my processes or my program. Uh, Another couple of questions that help them define their blind spots, misleverage, or what they don't see or what their false beliefs are. And then a third set of questions that allows me to do to flash roll, to just demonstrate my experience, my authority, my understanding. So I do both the icebreaker and the diagnostic for free. Anybody that wants to interact with me over email to help identify what they're actually trying to accomplish, where they're starting, what they're starting with, what's actually in their way, and define the roadmap that will help them collapse time to target, I'm willing to have that conversation for free because, number one, it demonstrates authority and expertise. It's giving people real value because most people don't know what they're actually trying to accomplish. If you're saying, "Oh, I want more money and more time," well, that's not a measurable goal. You can't, what is enough, and what is the time and money for? That's what you're actually trying to accomplish. Money and time may be a means, but it's a side effect. It's not an end in and of itself. And most people don't have a real clear awareness of where they're starting or what they're starting with, and they don't understand that they could actually stop doing 80% of the things that they're currently doing to try to get what they want, even if it's not clearly defined, and they would immediately get closer to what they actually want. So by delivering value in terms of clarity of destination and path, I can then move people into what I call inbox catalyst, which is a continuation of that conversation through 5 emails over 2 weeks, where I can actually, having given them a roadmap, I can help them get traction through a 5 email back and forth, where they actually start to experience collapsing time to target, closing the gap, getting where they want to go with greater ease and velocity. After they have experienced that, if they want to move into a higher ticket, and I don't have a high ticket, but if they want to move into Voxer velocity or cornerman coaching, for most people, it's a natural next step. And so, yes, to your question, Lorenzo, you have to define what you do for free and what you must be paid for. For me, information is free. I will share everything I know, and I will share all the processes that I have created in the purpose-driven prosperity model. I'll help you understand how to create your forever offer and how to build your Be a Blessing marketing web and how to craft your client or customer attraction system for free. Because that's just information. You could find it on ChatGPT if you wanted to anyways, and I wrote about it in all my books that you can get for $1 or for free. What people who get the roadmap from me are paying for is implementation and course correction. Because even after I've given someone a map, it's just like getting an old MapQuest map or an old road atlas. It'll get you where you want to go as long as time and randomness don't happen. And time and randomness always do happen. There's always unforeseen, unexpected obstacles and opportunities along the way. And my role is to be the GPT. I'm the Google map. I will help you course correct, find better destinations, find you better ways to the destination. And for that, you will pay a little and you'll get way more than you pay for. And that's at every level, whether it's the low ticket inbox catalyst or the mid ticket Vox velocity or the full cornerman coaching. So one of the things that I've been thinking about for you, Lorenzo, and for people in your situation where you're just kind of getting your offering clarified and starting to create your client attraction system is if the fastest path to cash is conversations, the first step is to get good at starting conversations. So get good at the icebreakers, get good at the calls to action to get people to comment on or raise their hand to ask you a question or send you a DM or book a call or whatever it's going to be. Then once you have some traction with creating conversations, how can you get better at the diagnostic process of helping them clarify for themselves what they're actually trying to accomplish, where they're starting, what they're starting with, and what they need to do to start to close the gap. When you have gotten a certain level of proficiency, good enough at doing that, then it's time to get better at how do you transition them from, I provided you a roadmap for free, and if you would like me to get you going and give you a little help getting traction and building momentum, then what's that small ticket offer, low ticket offer? And once you start closing that gap, then you can move into other things. There is a school of thought that, digital marketers often talk about where, sell your high ticket thing first. Well, the problem with selling your highest ticket thing first is most people that are just getting started, and even some people that have been doing their thing for a while, they don't actually know what their high ticket thing is. They don't actually know that they may not even have a lot of proficiency in doing their thing. So you can sell a high ticket thing. All you're going to do is burn through that innovator market, that 2%, 1 to 2% of the market that will buy just because it's new. And when you run out of those people, you will have burned so much reputation and trust in the process that nobody will buy anything from you ever again. So you can sell your high ticket thing as a short term way of making a cash grab, but it certainly does not lead to sustainability. What I have found is do the right things at the right time in the right sequence. To clarify your offer, get good at having conversations that help people tell you what problem they're trying to solve or what aspiration they're trying to achieve. Get better at the diagnostic conversations that help you clarify direction and craft a path, and then get better at the conversion conversations that move them into some sort of paid offering. That, again, if you demonstrate expertise, authority, and the ability to deliver value at each step, the next step is just a naturally occurring thing. You're never selling. There's never any buying remorse. People are just doing the next right thing for them because the thing that they just did with you was the right thing. All right. So I hope that's helpful, Lorenzo. Lisa says, I'd love to find a way to sell painting lessons as I travel. Use my laptop and use Zoom, find local people. That's a great project, Lisa. I don't think it has to be either or in terms of virtual or in person. I would think it might be more fun and rewarding to do it in person where you are, and that you could use virtual to help get the word out ahead of you being somewhere where you're going to make yourself available to do lessons. Again, you could step into this by, start by offering, some sort of free workshop wherever it is that you are that gives people a clearly defined win. Like, hey, join me. We're going to do, my wife is a watercolor, so she has all these different colored canvases and watercolor paper sizes. And like, she loves to make cards because she doesn't always have time for a full-blown get the easel out and get the paints ready and paint for 4 hours, but she can pull out the watercolors and a piece of cardstock and create a beautiful card for a family member in less than an hour. So can you do something like can you build the muscle by first offering some sort of very low cost or maybe even free thing where you're just going to say, hey, I'm Lisa and I'm going to be here in Lisbon for the next 2 weeks. And I'm going to offer a series of workshops on painting pastorals, or I'm not an artist, so I can't come up with any terminology, but you could offer something for free that gives people a measurable wins, a painting of some sort that they can take home, and then say, and next Tuesday or whatever, for those of you that would like to continue, we're going to, and whatever the next iteration, next level would be, based on the information you just gathered from the free cohort. Like, hey, if you want to come back next Tuesday, I'm just charging whatever it is that you're going to charge, $100 for a 2-hour session where we're going to do a group painting of a figure painting or whatever it's going to be. So again, just like, I think it's okay to, at this stage, you want to test what, not only what the market wants, but like, what do you actually enjoy showing up and doing? Because if it's not fun and fulfilling for you, it doesn't matter how successful it is or how much money you make doing it. I could tell you from someone that has created some very profitable businesses doing work I don't like with people I don't care about. It's not fun. So like, test the things that bring you fulfillment, provide you with meaning, provide you with a return on investment, whether that's just in the feelings of fulfillment and meaning, or remuneration, and then iterate and improve based on what the field tells you. So I hope that's helpful. Let's see, we're going to do one more here. Oh, Lisa says, I created a maxim today. If you live in wonder, you lead a wonderful life. I love that. You would not believe how many breaks I get because people can see I'm in wonder. Doors open. It happens in Lisbon this afternoon. I have photos you will not have. This sounds very in line with what you're saying. Yeah, I am a big fan of, wonder is a great word. I often talk about fascination, because for me it works in all sorts of situations. Like, just living in this, I go for a walk or a run at the cemetery every day, oftentimes early in the morning, and I see the sunrise, over the Blue Ridge Mountains, as I'm gazing across the tombstones, and it's just, it is a wonderful experience. It is a fascinating experience as I'm watching a new day rise across a field of dead bodies. It's fascinating. And when I was a coach in Akimbo workshops, there was one of our daily activities was navigating and dealing with unpleasant situations between students and coaches, between students and the teacher, whether that was Seth or Bernadette or whoever, between coaches and like, I had to deal with all sorts of really interesting situations, where it was clear to me that it wasn't that one side was necessarily wrong or one or the other was wrong. Everyone was doing and saying and believing what they thought was right for them. And it was often more a disconnect between someone's intention and the impact it had on someone else. And between intention and impact is interpretation. So one person had a different interpretation in terms of impact than the interpretation of the intention by the person, that was causing the stress or whatever it was with the other person. And one of the things I noticed when coaches would meet about these situations is people would just like take it very seriously and want to leap into action and try to solve the problem and fix the situation. And I always was a big believer in the power of the community to kind of sort and resolve things on its own. And that sometimes the best thing to do is just pause and see if people could come to their own agreements around disagreements and their own understanding and so forth. And so rather than leaping to value judgments about the people involved, I would say people are fascinating. And it was just my way of saying, yeah, we're all confused and conflicted and full of cognitive distortions and biases and narrative fallacies and false beliefs. Um, and it's fascinating. And so just like, it was just a way of reframing this as, instead of like this immediate problem concern that had to be dealt with right away, as an interesting puzzle, that we could maybe figure out together. So yeah, wonder is a great posture to have in the world. Fascination is a great posture. Curiosity and consideration will take you a lot further than value judgment and outrage. Lorenzo says, yes, this is the hardest part, remaining curious while still being grounded in the best version of self. It's making sense now. I'm seeing the connection on how it flows. Oh, good, Lorenzo. I'm glad that was helpful. All right. Yeah, great to have you all here. We've gone a full hour with 3 simple questions and 3 less than simple answers, but I hope that this was useful and helpful for anyone that is watching live. I will probably post this as a replay, and with some links to some of the resources that I referenced. And until next time, be well, do good, have fun.